Welcome, boys. Okay, in this video we're going to be replacing the heat riser on our 74 Beetle engine. Heat riser's back here, carburetor's on top of it. It's bolted to the intake manifold here, clamped in with this boot rather, and then bolted down here. The muffler goes, and is to bring hot exhaust gases in here to heat below the carburetor to prevent icing. Mine's clogged. I have a replacement kit. However, it does require some fabrication work. We have pipe cutters. And we need to get this heat riser out so I can check the dimensions of it and fab this heat riser to fit properly. We can put all that back on. And while we're at it, I also have gaskets to replace the intake manifold or bolts down to the head. I have new boots here. I have a new gasket here for the carburetor. I think I have one for the fuel pump too. And so we'll get that stuff done. And we'll see if I need to remove the coil and distributor or not. I'm going to have to replace the distributor anyway because I broke the nipple off here for the vacuum advance. So I got to order a new one of those. And then I might as well, what I might do is order a new one, see if I can get a vacuum advance pod separately, transplant it onto here, save this as like a known good part along with this. But that's a completely different video. We're just focused on heat riser, so let's jump into it. First, when you get the carburetor off. So we're going to disconnect the fuel hoses going to it from the pump, the carburetor. Might be better with a Phillips, I think. There we go. $13mm ratcheting wrench helps you get to the nut on the back bottom of the carburetor, and then this one right here as well. Oops, that's tightening, I think. Yeah. Okay, boys. Got a nut down there we need to get to. That will allow this thing to tilt back. We're going to undo these clamps at the boot on either side, and then down there are bolts to the muffler. Those I do remember are 10mm, so when I did the muffler job. And that one down there's probably a 13. And then, of course, your Phillips will get those. All right, let's get her done. All right, I pulled the distributor cap off and then removed the wires and stuff. Just pulled them out of the way just for easier access and viewing. Plus, I'm going to probably replace these anyway. So, just to get them off and out of the way, make this all much easier, we're just going to go ahead and take them off. Okay, so this is a problem. Because this. Ow. Mind frame.
Yeah. I see a lot of your arm, but yeah.
Maybe I have to take the fan off, then I can just pull this forward. Then I can just lift the heat riser up. So what holds this fan on from back here? Gigantic nut. I guess that's a 30 mil. Maybe a gigantic 30 mil.
Is that the one that's not attached to anything?
Yes. It's bigger than that. Uh-oh. How much bigger?
You have a 32.
Bigger than that. So now we need to see what the oil filter size thingy is on the BMW.
That's a big thing.
You need to hold this.
It's not here?
Okay, stop doing what you're about to do. I already have it adjusted to where it needs to be.
Okay, where's it
So
go?
put it on there properly this time. Not like that. The only way it's going to fit on. Aha.
I might have touched it.
Why did you touch it? Okay. Now you need to hold this because I need to try to loosen this. So I'm going to be moving this way, which means you need to be going kind of that way. Ready, set, hit.
Stop.
Ready, set, hit. Boy, that's really on there. Yeah, I'm going to have to probably impact it off, I guess. I bet I don't have an impact reducer that size. Try one more time by hand. I don't have a big hammer. Small one, though. Alright, I guess that's not going to work. I'm going to have to impact it off if I have a reducer that size. Alright, do your best to hold it, because I'm just going to fucking wang it.
1 second.
Is it on there?
Yep. You get it off already?
Yes, that's the beauty of impacts.
There was like no resistance like before.
Well, that's because... Okay, so this... So this fan should just stay in here when this comes out. The fan's off. And you're not holding that, so hopefully nothing bad just happened, because that would have been a very expensive repair. Okay. Alternator's off. Fan's just kind of dangly. That's not a problem, because this should just come, theoretically, this should. Am I really going to have to take this thing off to get this goddamn heat riser out of here? It's fine.
I told you just had to wiggle it around. But you didn't want to wiggle.
Well, did I have to do all that shit I just did?
May not have. I don't know. And it depends on how much space you truly had. Because I had to twist that around too. So I don't think you would have had that space.
Alright, well. Alright, boys. Well, that was a pain in the ass. But here we go. Heat riser off. Now we can fab up the new heat riser to be the same dimensions as this. Or slightly shorter on these. In any case, it cannot be any bigger, because getting this off required removal of the intake manifold. And slithering this thing out of here without pulling this part off that holds the oil filler neck on here, I had to take the fan out.
Which was, what was that, 34 or 36?
36 millimeter gets the humongous nut that's on the fan off. Now lining that thing back up later is going to be a pain in the ass too. Because obviously it spins in here kind of fast. So however fast you go, the faster it spins. You need to make sure that it's one, on there tight, and B, that when it's in there it doesn't bump into anything on the side. Alright. I guess I'll start fabbing up some stuff. Okay, we have it mocked up. So what I've done is put it to where I think it needs to go. Bolted it down, and that way when I take it apart, and I've already marked with a paint mark whereabouts it needs to go. So I can sand those pieces down with some emery cloth, make it blinging. Use a bunch of high temp gasket maker to affix these tubes into that heat sink area. And then we'll put it back down. Make sure that the intakes fit, and then we'll have to just mock it in place and let it sit for 24 hours until that gasket maker dries. And then it'll be exactly where it needs to be. Okay, I removed the fan shroud tin and everything, because this was kind of difficult to get on with that in the way. But with it off, we have a mock-up test fit, so it looks like everything's going to be fine, because these do want to go slightly in here before you boot it up and everything. And so now that I know everything's going to fit proper, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just show you, like, here. I'll just try to work this thing out of here right quick. Alright. So that's kind of where I'm going to need to go. I'm going to have to sand with the emery cloth up until the white deal, and then coat it with some of that high temp gasket maker, stick it back in the hole, and then once that gets done, let's see if I can get this thing off. Yeah, I just needed 2 hands. So once that gets done, it'll go back in that hole there, and ditto for this side. Once I clean it up and gasket it, we'll go in there. We'll fit just fine in there before we put the boots, and so we'll be good. We won't have any leaks, air leaks or anything. And I'm also going to gasket this little screw thing in there as well. And I did go on the grinder and kind of grind this down a little. I need to file it to clean it up, and that's so that this little nut here can kind of get a better purchase on it. It was like a half thread, and I think it'd be better if I could just as another point of securing it, so it's not just secured by the heat risers and those boots. But if it's secured here, it should keep it from vibrating around, reducing the possibility of air leaks. So I also did that on that one as well for next time, if and when I finally clear that out. So, all right, we'll do that, and then that's it. We'll get her back together. So that's how we do heat risers, and then reassemble the engine. But once I get everything fabbed up and put back on there, I'll let you get the final result. But for a day, so what I'm going to do is once I get everything in here, you'll see it, but I'm just going to have it exactly where it needs to be, everything torqued down. That way you can set. And once it's set after the 24 hours, boom, done. Put the shroud back on, and we can start reassembling this thing. Okay, boys, I got the clamps on either side of the intakes. We have RTV'd our heat riser tubing. We got the intake boots and those other hoses already on there, so now we just got to situate it, get it perfectly set up. Okay, boys, and after an incredibly tedious cutting of little by little sections of tubing, we have her mocked up and bolted down. So do make sure you are fairly tight. Don't go completely apeshit at it with it first. Just a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit until it's tight. Because you don't want to strip or snap any of these little things. They're only 10 mils. And then the RTV gasket maker high temp, what is used to seal that in. Seal this tube into there. And this tube into there. And you kind of have to put everything together at once. So off screen, as you can see, I painted my tin. Also re-gasketed this guy in the fuel pump, along with the intake here. So what you do is, after you got your gasket here, you'll set these on, but don't bolt them down, on both sides. And then I took this, once I have this mocked up, and then make sure you get your boot on first, slide it in here, and then with this thing in position, you should be able to fairly easy wiggle it to where it gets where it needs to here. Because these should be inside of these by at least a little bit. And then, the only other piece of advice I have, if I can ever not trip over everything, is I'll demonstrate on this thing, or explain on this thing. So, you may be tempted to just keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting, because this thing isn't going to fit in there very far. And that's because of this bend, it bulges out the tube here and there. So it won't fit and go in that far, even though there's plenty of distance for this tube to go into that heat sink. So get your bench grinder and grind away. Grind the bulges down so where it's fairly flat, and then you can start cutting as much of the tubing as you need until it fits there. And it's, like I said, it is incredibly tedious, so I didn't even bother filming it because I would have had to just do a million editing jobs. But we're in there. Now I'm just going to silicone paste here and here, so this boot will slide easy. Slide right over there, clamp her down, clamp our 13 down here, and then we'll let this cure for the 24 hours or whatever, the RTV, and then we should be good. So that's what it calls for. It doesn't say brazing or soldering or welding or anything. It says you can use high temp RTV, so that's what we're using. All right, so we'll go ahead and get her there, and then well, that should be it. We're just waiting for the 24 hours to cure, and then in the other videos, we'll just be adjusting the valve lash and regasketing the valve covers and putting the engine back together, and then we can get her in. So, and then like I said, we did the tin painting off camera. Not the best job, but better than what it was. So, all right, see you in a bit. Okay, boys, and she's done. So, it's as easy as that. The worst part of this, well, other than having to remove the whole engine, just to do heat risers somewhat more easily, is the tediousness of getting this fabbed up just right so it fits in there. So, at the end of the day, it is as easy as what we've done. Get that ready. Cut down the size. Get our RTV in place. Get the intakes in first. And then once that that tubing is slid inside there, while your boots and hose clamps are already pre-installed on the heat riser, just torque these down, these 13s down first, then the 10s. Then you can do these boots with the 6mm, and then when you start getting close to really tight, I use the straight screwdriver and then torque it until my grip essentially slips and I slip off the screwdriver, and then I know it's tight enough. And then that 13mm right there, which holds heat riser in place. And then that's it. So that's it for heat riser replacement. Kind of sucks. Ideally, if I could have, while the muffler was out, ran a snake through there and cleaned out the old one, that would have been way easier. Wouldn't needed to do any of this, but I guess at the very least with the engine out, we're able to replace lots of stuff. Fuel lines, all the gaskets, crank pulley, and repaint the tins. And that's about it. Replace clutch and everything. That'll be its own video. The valve lash and gaskets will be its own video. And I will have to wait to get the car back down on the ground before I can do the axle seals, because I am going to need to probably... I mean, I could probably do it without it, but it might be easier to be able to turn the wheel. I don't know. We'll see about that. And then, of course, we can also do the throwout bearing and the input shaft seal while the engine's out. So we will for sure do that. We'll probably do that while the engine's out, but we'll see. It might be easier to get some of those Allens out if I can spin it, but might not. I might be able to do it anyway. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, boys. Peace.